They live separately. They date separately. They're in long-term relationships with other people. But
This is a total sham.
Yeah, it is.
Because the whole time we thought they were in an open relationship, and I
Yeah.
thought that she said that open relationship at one point. Didn't they hit?
I think during the Red Table Talk, it was something which is the podcast thing that show that she does, Jada Pinkett Smith. I thought that there had been talk about we're in an open relationship, because when she got not caught, but when the world found out that she was dating.
Yeah, that guy.
The younger guy,
Right.
Was friends with her
August Alsina.
Yes, that's right. That it was like, what? She's cheating, and then that was almost like they were forced
To say something, right.
This
Well,
is
why
what's
didn't they
going
say
on.
separated? It would make a lot more sense than open marriage. And
Well-
the other thing is, this really doesn't make sense. Why did he get so mad at the awards?
So apparently, and this is
Will Smith.
Jada Pinkett Smith sitting down with Hoda Kotb, and they're talking back and forth. Real quick before we get to that, people are wondering, why haven't you said anything?
I feel like you're a straight talker,
I am.
except you're not sometimes.
Yeah.
So why do that? Like, what is the reason?
Like,
I
what did
Wait,
you
wait,
just
wait.
say? Yeah.
Yeah. I guess you could be somebody who's very open and honest, and then you have one or two things that
That you just don't talk
you
about.
don't talk about, and then people are like, so yeah, I can see that.
I can definitely
Just
see
not
that.
being ready yet. Still trying to figure out between the two of us how to be in partnership, right? In regards to how do we present that to people, And we hadn't figured that out.
God, it's good news for Will Smith, in my opinion. But I just don't understand why he was so passionate about sticking up for his wife, which he said multiple times, like he had the strong connection with, when they're separated.
And they said they would only show. Sorry, Kay, that they'd only show up at like public events together, and then they'd go back to their separate lives.
And then during this whole entire interview with Hoda Kotb, Jada Pinkett Smith said, I thought the whole thing with Will Smith was a skit.
She did say that. Yeah.
She said, I didn't know. I mean, because they both knew what they knew about their relationship. The rest of the world didn't. And so then here's Will Smith walking up onto a stage to assault another human being, who also, by the way, Jada Pinkett Smith said when Chris Rock found out that there had been rumblings that maybe they were no longer together, allegedly, she says, Chris Rock asked her out on a date a couple years ago.
Okay.
So then Chris Rock makes this joke, and then Will Smith reacts the way that he reacts. Jada Pinkett said, I thought it was a skit.
Yeah. Well, we all thought. I
a
watched
skit
it as it was
too.
happening live. I'm like, this isn't real.
We thought it was a skit
There's
as
no
well.
way that Will Smith, Hollywood's good guy, is smacking Chris Rock, which is one of the famous comedians.
And then
That's insane.
Now we know Jada Pinkett's sitting there thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah, it's really crazy. The
Yeah.
whole, and then it's like it is a sham though. It's like, well, we promised we would never get divorced. You're not living. You're doing you're leading separate lives. You clearly don't really love each other, and it's because you're holding on to something. And I don't know. And I think it's emasculated him. I think it's frustrated her. I mean, and that's probably that built up pressure. Like we're in this frustrating situation that we can't even tell people about.
Well, I don't know that they can't tell people about.
They felt like they couldn't because it's too
it's
complicated.
also private.
Well,
Yeah.
I
It's
kind
also
of
private.
see. It's kind of odd, but I kind of see now where Will Smith is coming from, and I'm going to tell you because when he got really mad at Chris Rock, Will Smith probably knew that amid their separation or divorce rumors, he probably knew that Chris Rock asked her out.
Could be.
Probably.
And I hate to say this, Squid, you might feel the same way, maybe not. But even when you have an ex from years ago and you break up with the ex, and you could have a whole new girlfriend or a whole new wife. When somebody you know asks out your ex, you still have a protective stance for some reason. Like, that's messed up. No, and he might have felt that, and that's why he did it.
It's either that
Could
or
be.
you feel like you're like worried for the new guy. You're like, oh, do you need to fill you in on what's going
No,
on?
I don't know.
Jerry,
No, I'm not talking. I'm not
oh
talking
my
about
God.
me. I'm not talking about me. Have you never thought that?
Yeah, no.
Is there
haven't.
anybody you've dated afterwards and they're
No.
dating someone else? You're like, man, if they only knew.
You know why? Because anybody else, I'm like, dodged a bullet, and then you move
That's
on.
what I'm saying.
But I don't have an. I never
You don't
one
feel-
time have felt an obligation to let the other person
Did
know
I say
what
an
they're getting
obligation?
into.
No, I didn't say an obligation. But you're thinking,
No.
oh man, they don't know.
Best of luck to you.
Yeah, that is true, Jared. I see what you're saying. You have no idea what you're getting yourself into because what you think you went through, that type of thing. But I don't think he was like that during this. He was more protective of he was mad that maybe there's not a full like complete letting go between each of them, and there's still a little that jealousy, and he doesn't want some big star like Chris Rock dating his wife who he's technically still married to.
I'm for people staying together if they can. This just seems overly toxic.
So I told Jared this morning, and I can't explain it because they've both passed. And I mean, I guess I could ask my mom. I don't know. But my grandparents, my pretty much my whole existence, I only knew them to live separately.
Okay.
And they had 7 kids together. My mom's the oldest of the 7 kids.
That's why they get separate.
Yes. I mean, and at some, they married very young and they were together forever, and they both died loving each other. I know that for a fact because there was like a talk and, after talking to my mom and stuff, but I only ever knew them growing up to have separate residences. And even when they did live in the same house, they eventually slept in separate beds.
Did they have separate boyfriends and girlfriends?
No, they never dated after.
Ooh,
They never did.
That's
I
sad.
think 7, no, it was old. It was later in life.
I'm
wasn't-
still talking about sexy time sad.
Okay, I don't want to talk about my
No, I
grandparents
know that,
doing
but,
that,
it's the natural human thing.
it
but-
is.
Well, I
And
mean,
maybe they
the
did.
biggest
but
hookup place on earth is the Villages in Florida.
I choose
What?
to believe
The Villages. It's like the biggest
Yeah.
retirement community in the country. It might be in the world. And it's like Squid. It's like STD haven.
Oh.
They have
No, he's
major
free.
problems with
He's free.
STDs. No, I mean, he's worried about he might have STD, but he
Yeah.
doesn't. Because,
Really?
But that's also the advance of Viagra and stuff. Obviously, years and years ago. At some point,
This is
you
really. I'm actually really upset that I brought this
no,
up.
we're not talking about. No, I'm just saying. But it's like at some point back in the day,
Yeah.
nature
I don't
said,
know.
you're done as
Yeah.
a man or a woman. You're
And after 7 children, I
They're
think that
probably
their
done.
life has a lot of life has happened, and at that point, it's like, you know what?
What's the point?
No,
What's the point?
remind me not to ever share anything about my grandparents ever again.
Well, I mean,
it's
it
just
is,
it's a very weird. Like now we're talking about Viagra. It's
No, I wasn't
My point is that we don't know what goes on behind closed doors.
No, you don't.
And to say that it's a sham, I don't view my grandparents' marriage as a sham.
They didn't go on and start dating other people
They
and have
didn't.
long-term relationships with other
They
people. Then it
didn't,
would be a sham.
But I also, okay.
It would be a sham of a marriage if you're literally living with another person, but like, oh, but we're married. That makes no sense.
Well, I don't think that
And they didn't do
they
that.
I don't think that Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith have any sort of obligation to anybody other than themselves to have to explain what's going on. We, as people who follow paparazzi, who follow people around, who pry, who ask all the questions, yes, they're in the limelight, and that is what comes along with it. But I don't think that just means all of a sudden you have to share everything.
Jada
every
Pinkett Smith's
private
the one
moment.
that told about the August thing. She told people
because
about
people
it.
were
And she was
watching them
openly
out.
dating people. Like
Yeah,
she's on dates with someone who's not her husband.
If you're openly out dating,
They weren't hiding
They're
it.
I
walking the
think
red carpet.
the
For
social
years.
norm is going to be questioning
I
that.
agree with that, but the point
With
of
anyone, famous or not.
the point of bringing up my grandparents is that
no, you
I
don't
don't know. I don't know. But,
Yeah, but
they
you're-
were deeply Catholic, and they decided we made this vow and this commitment to each other. That's how we're living.
But you're not. Like, for instance, if all of a sudden you were married and you portrayed that you were married, and then you walked and were caught with somebody else, you would automatically think they're cheating. So that's why it would be. They kind of do owe. People do owe that because then you make other people wonder if they're cheating, and then should you tell?
But
I mean,
aren't there? And Jared, I'm going to use you here as an example. But aren't there other extenuating circumstances where it's like maybe people saw you out on a date, or maybe people saw you on a dating site and they didn't know what was going on in your
No,
life.
and if they asked me,
And-
I would say I'm separated. I'm not saying,
But-
I'm married and I'm happily
but
married.
what you could say would be, I can't legally talk about that. That was what you said for months and months
No,
and months. Or
I couldn't
if
legally talk about it on the air. I can talk
right,
about it to
that's
individuals.
what we heard.
Right.
Is that we couldn't? You know what
right.
I mean?
Right.
So people speculate all
But like
the time.
if you and Ben started living in separate homes
Mm-hmm.
and Ben had a girlfriend and you had a boyfriend, would you think that your marriage is a sham? Right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah. I
Or
don't.
just at some point say we have an open marriage. They're not saying that. They're like separating, just living totally different lives, but still under the cloud of being married.
That's the same thing as people who stay together for the kids. Isn't their marriage a sham? Is that what you're saying?
well, I don't know. It depends if they're actively dating
Well,
other
I mean,
people.
isn't that what?
I think it's once you involve other people and you're living totally separate lives. If you're under one roof and you're trying and it's like, but in your mind, like, I'm just with them for the kids or I'm just with them for the money. Yeah, I think that it devalues what you're doing. But if you're still together and you're not, I mean, you're basically married to other people and just living separate lives. I don't know. I don't think that's marriage. Right?
Yeah, it seems kind of the whole thing
The whole
seems
thing
odd
is
to
odd.
me.
I
The
don't
dating
pretend to
other
understand
people
it.
for years, being in
Well, now it ex-
sexual relationships for years with other people. That's not marriage.
Now we can kind of confirm maybe that he's hooked up with Margot Robbie. That was the rumor.
Which is your dream.
Well, I'm not him.
No wonder he's so
You,
mad.
it's you.
What's that one movie he was in with her, and they had like sexy time scenes together and
Focus.
everything.
Focus.
Focus?
We never
Yeah.
remember. Matt always remembers.
I got you.
Well, that's why he's so mad. It's because she's now married to somebody else, and he's still like in this
Oh,
weird.
he could get whoever he wants. Will Smith.
Of course.
Well,
I don't think, and I know that you guys are guys, and so you immediately take the guy's side of it.
I'm
No.
not.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I don't like Jada Pinkett Smith. I never have.
Why? Because why?
I think she comes across as a cold, manipulating
Could that
person.
have anything to do with
This is before
your?
Why are you
like,
positioning me
I'm
with
just-
Jared?
I'm not. I'm just saying.
Yeah, don't
Could
put
that
me with
have
Jason.
any? Are you
Good.
projecting any of your not great
No.
experiences
No.
on other women?
No, I don't do that because I take it case by case. And I think there's a lot of people like the Amber Heard. Like most people are like, she seems cold and calculating. And, there's other people that would defend her. I think Jada Pinkett Smith's the same way. And I thought Meghan Markle. Those are just three extreme examples.
Okay.
But then there's other, I don't think all women are that way. I don't think Margot Robbie's some cold, calculating person. She doesn't come across that
Until
way.
you find out she's in an open marriage.
I don't think Megan
Then it'll be
McCarthy
his-
or Megan
That would be smoking
or
hot.
Melissa
but-
McCarthy. I don't think she's some cold. I don't think every woman. Those three
I
in
hope
particular.
not.
And I think as time has gone on, that has borne out to be that way.
I'm not like that. Then don't position me with Jared at all. But
I'm
I'm not like
not.
that either. I only say that about Hillary Clinton.
Now,
you.
now I'm sorry we brought any of
Thank
this
you.
up.
Yep.
Well, she comes
Jada
across.
Pinkett says she and Will Smith have been separated since 2016, leaving us saying, who cares in 2023?
Yeah, like 7
It
years
is
later.
odd, the whole smack. That still stays out. I still think it has some jealousy to it.
It
That's
could be. I didn't think about that part.
There's
When you
probably a
brought that
lot
up, I
of-
was like, oh,
A little
okay,
bit.
I can kind
I
of.
remember when I broke up with girlfriends, I would look back on them and be like, oh, who is she with? Oh, is he better? I'm like, I'm happily with another girl.
Yeah, but that's such a big thing as Will Smith to go up onto a stage where everybody's watching and physically assault somebody.
Well,
It has to be related.
I guess.
Because if Will knew that if it happened before the smack and Will knew about it, and if Will was still trying to hold on to Jada, 100%, I see him going up there and slapping Chris because you asked out the woman that I love, and now you're going to get it.
But he already knew it, so it waited for him to say a joke on national TV.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, that was just the trigger thing for
I
him to
got you,
do it.
but
If he knew about it before that point, because we don't know if Will knew prior to that.
And maybe, or maybe Will Smith thought, you know what, this guy is kind of taking advantage of a kind of a messed up situation that's going on in my life, and I don't like that. You know how it is. Love and
trust me, I've
relationships
wanted to
make you
slap Jason
crazy.
a lot with divorced twice. He's poking the bear a lot, and because the bear's lazy, he sits here, and I don't want to get him to smack you.
Well, like
Lazy bear.
Don't smack him!
Oh, lazy bear.
lazy bear.
For months, you just poked me, and I wasn't allowed to say anything. So
I've been much kinder. There's a lot, but I've been much
Do you know,
kinder.
you know what I was also thinking just now? You know how sometimes when other people from outside of our show make fun of somebody on the show and we're like, oh, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Like, we can do it all day long.
And we could do it even harsher.
No problem.
Right.
And not shed a tear or waste
Wow.
1 second of sleep.
Right.
But if somebody else does it, we're like, who do you think you are?
Yeah, like, no, you ain't part of us.
Yeah, like when somebody comes up saying like, yeah, Jared is kind of overweight. I'm like, who do you think you? I mean,
He's doing the best he can.
No, you don't.
He just lost 30 pounds, but who do you think?
Whatever.
That is rude to
Whatever.
say that.
How many times? If I had a Dogecoin for every time someone came to me and said, "Is Jason an a-hole?" and then having me say, "No, we're actually friends, and he's funny, and we get along." They're like, oh, really? And
Sure.
I could. He's not around. He doesn't know that.
He doesn't
but
know.
I don't like them. Like, no,
Like, they
he's
don't
not.
get to. So maybe Will Smith was feeling that a little bit. Like, look, you don't get Chris Rock.
Yeah.
You don't get to make a joke about
Yeah,
us.
that's what I think.
know,
It's got to be.
yeah.
It's like
Could be.
Katie does have an annoying voice. I'm like, how dare
Do
you?
you want to take that up with God?
I'm on your side. I love your voice.
Think you do.
Yeah, I like your
He
voice.
does love your voice.
I do.
Yeah.
It's a facade, but I like it.
Your voice is very sweet
I
sounding.
don't even know what that
A
means.
facade means I think if people never saw you, they
Yeah.
think you're like some smoking
You
hot
just
blonde.
use facade so incorrectly all the time that I don't know what in which context
That
you're
is
using it
true.
in.
That is pretty
Right.
It's like
Per se.
It's like
Per se.
facade. It's like a building that has a facade around it.
Yep.
You have that around you because
Got
your
it.
voice doesn't match what people I think perceive of you.
No
Okay.
offense.
Yeah, no offense.
He's
Not in
saying
a bad way.
I was saying
Not
that
in a bad way.
your voice comes across as super sweet, but they don't know you have that
Yeah.
side to
Oh,
you.
I get it.
Not
You
all
don't
the-
have to
not
explain.
all
You
the
don't have to
time.
explain. I get it.
Which
I get
is
it.
worse?
It's,
Him saying they thought you're a
it's
hot
all
blonde?
bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's not blonde. What do you mean?
You said, "Oh, I thought your voice would be a smoking hot blonde."
Yes, she's not a smoking hot blonde.
She's the
brunette.
opposite of that.
Smoking
No,
hot.
she's
You
brunette.
say
There's
smoking
tons-
hot. She's brunette.
There's tons of guys that like
Smoking
I
hot
am
brunette?
happily married. Let's not try to ruin this for me.
Well, I'm telling you.
80% of women are brunettes. So I mean, it's not.
Well, they dye their hair too. But I'm
Yeah.
saying that every time Katie's in a picture, everybody seems
Oh
to
my
want
gosh.
Katie.
That's true. Literally next to
I don't
Miss.
see a lot of people saying they want Jason. They go, he's short, midget, all that stuff.
Do you
Yeah.
know what? I now hate Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith for all of this.
Right, there you go.
For every ounce of it.
Right. Miss North Carolina was standing next to Katie,
Yep.
and she didn't say anything. She was very polite.
I didn't either.
Take a picture, posted it, and people were like, "Miss North Carolina's ugly. Katie's the one that's beautiful." Like, we didn't say who's hotter. We just said, "Here's Katie
You
with Miss
gotta
North
vote
Carolina."
for the underdog. You know what I'm saying? You gotta root for them.
We got to play this though.
Oh, wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
Yikes.
Wow,
You
dude.
meant to say my estranged wife. But
It's been 7 years.
it takes too long to say.
It's very complicated.
It was a G.I. Jane jump.
Keep my wife's name out your mouth.
I'm going to.
There's passion
okay?
there.
And
There
by the
is.
way, I hated Will Smith after he did that. I hated that behavior. I thought it was
Yes.
horrible.
Awful. He
I mean,
should have
it was
been
Jada's-
escorted out.
Definitely Jada's fault, the whole thing.
He
But
should have been escorted out.
he should have. He should have been. He should have been
Instead, he
arrested.
stands up there and accepts an award.
He
Like,
should
are
have been
you
arrested.
kidding me?
But I will say this.
Yep.
I mean, I did have a bad taste in my mouth because I always had this perception of him. We're all human. We all have bad days, and we all make mistakes.
Are you going to try to ruin our day later? Is that why you're saying this? Is this like a preemptive statement?
No, we just do. We all. I mean, we all have bad days and out of character. You know what I'm saying? And we have a perception of Will Smith of how he is, and he seems like this. I guarantee you, the nicest person in the world has a bad day that comes across as like.
Sure.
So I have to give him some of that.
For most average everyday people, we're never as bad as our worst moment.
That's right.
Nor would we want to be judged by our worst moment. But although we typically are.
We typically are.
We typically are.
Can I also just throw in that if you are dating and somebody says to you, it's complicated, believe them. Like,
Yes.
believe them.
That's
Take
the-
that and
That's the
run.
first thing I say.
I'm sure Ben had seen you, Katie, in a state of
Yeah.
right. I mean,
Probably
right,
yesterday.
where you feel like you are just the worst human being on the face of the planet. I mean, I remember being curled up in a ball naked on a bed in Vegas, and Carol had to get me dressed. I was so hungover.
Yeah.
All right.
But,
So
you know,
Yeah.
we do the best we can.
And that's okay.
there's some bad, yeah.